and gentlemen, this is Television 21 and I'm Errol Shakiri. We are here at Ohrid, where is second edition of Prespa Forum Dialogue is ongoing. And one of the guests on the Prespa Forum is Mr. Miroslav Laјčak, who is also our guest today for this interview. Mr. Laјčak, thank you very much for taking this interview.
Thank you for having me.
Sir, I don't think that you need introduction to Macedonian public, because you're well known. You're one of the key players, key figures, politician and diplomat for post-conflict mediation in the post-conflict crisis in the Western Balkans. And you were involved in the referendum for independence in Montenegro. You negotiated that, you also observed that, and then you were assigned in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and under that mandate the Bosnia and Herzegovina signed the agreement for stabilization and association with the European Union, and currently you are EU Special Representative for the Pristina-Belgrade dialogue. So what I'm trying to say is that you know the Western Balkans and its problems in its substance. But before we start on the Western Balkans, let's talk about the European Union a little bit. After the Ukraine crisis, after the Russian aggression on Ukraine, what is happening with Europe? And I'm going to throw the debate of future of Europe that ended in May this year. What are the solutions that are given by those? But by that debate?
The Russian aggression against Ukraine has changed everything, has changed the world, and has changed also things that we were taken for granted, like peace in Europe. It is a huge tragedy, but at the same time it has helped the region of the Western Balkans, because it made it very clear that the Western Balkans cannot be left like hanging in between of two realities. It has become obvious that we need to speed up and conclude the full integration of the Western Balkans. That means to deliver full membership of the Western Balkans in the European Union. So in a way, the war in Ukraine had made the enlargement process political again, and has created a new momentum. And now our responsibility, and when I say our, I mean both European Union and the region, to turn this momentum into a reality, because it will not turn itself by inertia by itself. So we have to this momentum, and we really need to change it. And when we speak about future of Europe, there is no doubt that future of Europe is the Europe with the 6 Western Balkans being firmly anchored as members of the European Union.
Well, first of all, do you believe that, like European leaders are saying, that after the Russian aggression on Ukraine, Europe is now more united? Do you see it like that?
Yes, the level of unity is unprecedented. It was the European Union who took the lead. It was the European Union who adopted 5 sanction packages. A number of decisions, it was the European Union who led, and then we were followed by the United States and by other like-minded countries. And the unity is still there, and the commitment to Ukraine is very much there. And so this is I would say, the Europe at its best.
You mentioned that now Europe needs to deliver to these countries of the Western Balkans, and they failed to deliver so far. And you know that Euroscepticism is rising in the region, especially in North Macedonia and Albania, who are blocked by this Bulgarian veto. Now we have the summit on the 23rd of June. Do you have any expectations on a possible?
Yes, as you said, I have been dealing with the Western Balkans for more than 20 years, and I see the growing frustration in the region. But also on the side of the European Union, the fact is that the European Union made a very clear promise to the Western Balkans, and there is no other region that has been given this promise of full membership. But the problem is that the promise was made 19 years ago in 2003 in Thessaloniki. And since then, only Croatia joined the European Union, and out of the 6, only 2 are formally negotiating. So this is, of course, much slower than expected, and therefore the frustration in the region is growing. On the other hand, I should also tell you that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there was a feeling of complacency on the side of the European Union. There were people saying, we don't have to hurry, the region has nowhere to go, they only have European future, and we need to deal with our issues first, and then we will deal with the region. This is gone. The European Union clearly understands that we are underperforming, under-delivering in the Western Balkans, that the support for European integration is going down across the region. So we are not doing a good job, and we need to improve it. And you see already the signs such as the EU Western Balkans summits, which are now happening on an annual basis. There was a gap of 13 years. Now we have these summits every year, which is a sign of commitment. You see the top leaders of the European Union and the member states visiting the region. You see very strong presence from the European Union also here at Ohrid for this press platform, which is again a political commitment. And we will have another summit on the 23rd, just before the European Council. And
are you optimistic? I mean, what would be the message, for example, if one more time EU fails to deliver? What would be the message to the countries in the region, and also a message to Ukraine, because they are now...
Everybody wants this summit on the 23rd to end up with the decision to invite both North Macedonia and Albania to start accession negotiations. This is the wish. You know, the European Union works on the basis of consensus. So we are working on this consensus. French presidency is very serious about finding a solution that will allow us to reach this consensus. Look, there is no better future, there is no better perspective than the European Union. You want it, we want it. So let's make sure that we get there sooner rather than later. That's the best message I can have.
Failing to deliver, before there was a moratorium, let's say, on the enlargement, and in 2014 the German Chancellor at that time, they started so-called Berlin process with that summit, which is ongoing, still ongoing process. All of the 6 countries from Western Balkans are in that process. But in the meantime, there was a new regional initiative. It is called Open Balkan, with only 3 states, North Macedonia, Albania and Serbia. Your opinion on this regional initiative, and is it conflicting with the Berlin process, or it's totally on the same road?
First of all, when we speak about failing to deliver, let's be honest, and let's also say that there are 2 parties that have not really delivered fully. It's, yes, there are issues on the side of the European Union which had to deal with many other challenges, which obviously put the issue of enlargement more to the back of the priorities. You know, I'm speaking about the financial crisis, about migration crisis, about Brexit, about COVID. But now, and this is one thing I can say for sure, that one outcome of the meeting of 23rd will be a strong commitment to the enlargement and to the completion of the integration of the Western Balkans. That's point number 1. But of course, the region needs to send signals that you are also ready. You cannot sit and wait for a good news from the European Union. I'm not saying that North Macedonia is doing that. On the contrary, North Macedonia is very actively proving that is willing to be part of the solution. But regional cooperation that you mentioned is a very important element, because if you want to prove that you are able to function within the family of 27 plus, then obviously it's very logical that you have a very good regional cooperation. So if I can not work well with my neighbors, it's hard to convince the European Union that I will be able to work well in much wider. That's why, and you know that there are different sub-regional formats in the European Union, like Visegrad 4 or the Benelux or the Baltic and Nordics and so on. So therefore we support regional cooperation. Of course we support every time then the region gets together, when the partners from the Western Balkans get together. There are already numerous regional formats. We have Regional Cooperation Council, we have CEFTA, of course in all 6 signed up to become regional market, which we really see as the backbone of the regional integration. Now the Open Balkans comes as a new comes from the region, and whatever comes from the region it looks like a good news to us. What is important for us is that it's complementary. That means it does not duplicate what we already have. Second, it's inclusive. That means everybody is invited to participate. without discrimination.
Now everyone is invited, but let's connect this with something that you are working on and you are mediating on the negotiations, Kosovo and Serbia. Kosovo, the Prime Minister Kurti officially refused to be part of the Open Balkan. How do you comment that? And do you think that Kosovo should be at this stage part of Open Balkan?
Look, this is for every partner in the Western Balkans to decide for themselves. And yes, Prime Minister Kurti, President Osmani expressed themselves several times publicly what are their concerns with regard to the Open Balkans. So it's really important for the initiative to show that there will be no discrimination, and that the main purpose is to strengthen European integration of the region. So this is why European Union is looking at this format as a signal that the region is willing to work together. But as I said, it's really incredibly important. It complements and not substitutes what we already have. It's inclusive, and there is no discrimination, and it's firmly based on European values and on European path of the region.
Let's talk a little bit on the Kosovo-Belgrade dialogue that you are mediating currently. What is your approach on the negotiations? I mean, what is the new thing that you are asking from both sides? Something that, for example, is not included in Ahtisaari's plan.
Well, Ahtisaari's plan was an attempt to find a solution, but we know that if Ahtisaari's plan succeeded, then there would be no need for the dialogue. So we are not trying to build up on Ahtisaari's plan. We are not asking the parties to give more than they have already committed themselves in the Ahtisaari's plan. We want to finish what Ahtisaari's plan started but did not finish. That's one thing. Second, I've inherited 10 years of history of this process. There were very strong and good moments, very important agreements which have delivered a number of very concrete results, such as...
How many agreements do we have signed on both parties so far?
First of all, not all of them are signed. Second, there are more than 30, but they have different legal form. Like the Brussels agreement of 2013 is the most formal, but some agreements are in the form of non-papers, for example. So it's different legal validity. But in general,
some of them are not implemented also.
Yes, and some of them are not implemented, or yes, and this is what we are trying to do. So what we are not renegotiating past agreements, but what we want to make sure that they are implemented. For example, in the area of energy, there are two agreements. One was signed 2013, one of 2015, but never implemented. So we have now practically finalized a paper, a document which we call roadmap, how to implement this agreement, so that it finally starts implementing. So one thing we are doing is to make sure that what was signed in the past will be implemented, because pacta sunt servanda, of course, this is the universal principle. The second thing that we do is that we are addressing the current issues, the problems that arise, such as the issue with license plates, for example, which really created a serious crisis in September. So we are making sure that things do not get out of control, and there will be no tensions on the ground, because nobody needs it. And the third and most important avenue is, of course, to shape the future relationship between Kosovo and Serbia. And this is what we call normalization. My mandate says that I should facilitate reaching a comprehensive, legally binding agreement on normalization of our relations between Kosovo and Serbia. And this is where we are also now. So while addressing the implementation of past agreements, dealing with current challenges, we are also now addressing the future of relations between Kosovo and Serbia, and agreeing on what are the elements that will constitute the future agreement on normalization. There is a lot of work, not so visible. The chief negotiators are meeting every month, and we always have 7, 8, 9 items on the agenda. We have several documents now in the advanced stage of preparations. I am planning to prepare the next meeting. That means meeting between President Vučić and Prime Minister Kurti in Brussels soon, and we are working on it.
How soon?
How soon? My ambition is still before the summer break.
And Chancellor Scholz, he visited the region recently and included Belgrade. And in Belgrade, he gave a message to To the Serbian president that two countries with that dispute that they have, that is not recognizing the other country cannot enter the European Union, and that was the message. That was how it was interpreted. And now I have two questions here. So first is your comment on Scholz's statement, and the other one is you were also foreign minister of Republic of Slovakia, and Slovakia is one of the five countries in the European Union that still doesn't recognize Kosovo. Why is that still? And to actually connect the question, the comment with Scholz's visit and statement there in Belgrade.
Yeah, first, I mean, just to remind you of the facts that when Slovakia's official position was adopted, I was the High Representative in Bosnia and Herzegovina, so I was not part of the Slovakia's foreign service or politics. Second, as a foreign minister, I made sure that Slovakia is seen as a friend. There are a number of projects and programs between Slovakia and Kosovo. Slovakia has, of course, its diplomatic mission in Pristina, recognizes documents, passports, issues visa, provides official development assistance. I received a number of politicians or NGOs from Kosovo in my capacity as foreign minister. We were promoting people-to-people contacts, so showing that the formal position doesn't have to be an excuse or an obstacle to promote cooperation. What I can also tell you is that, of course, I'm representing EU 27 and I'm in regular contact with all member states, and they are following or watching this process of normalization or the dialogue very closely, and they are willing to contribute. They are willing to, they want this process to succeed, and they are willing to contribute also from their side, including the five countries that have not formally recognized Kosovo, and they need to see the process that is working and that is progressing. I will stop here because I should not go any further in this, but I think the message is clear. When it comes to Chancellor Scholz's visit, I have to say that Germany is a very strong supporter of the Western Balkans membership in the European Union, and that was a very clear message also that Chancellor Scholz delivered both in Belgrade and Pristina. They are also very strong supporters of my mission and my work, and this is very important for me. You would recall that we also had meetings in Brussels, in Berlin, where I met with Chancellor Scholz, and then he met with Prime Minister Kurti and President Vučić, and then we had the dinner, the three of us together, informal but important. So I see the Chancellor Scholz's visit as a clear message of commitment towards the European future for the Western Balkans.
My last question, sir, since we are on the Prespa Forum dialogue, Prespa agreement that was signed resolved a big dispute between Macedonia and at that time and the Republic of Greece. Do you think that this model, the Prespa model, can help of resolving other bilateral disputes that we have in the region, especially Kosovo-Serbia?
For me, the most important message of the Prespa agreement is that every problem is solvable if there is a political will and if there is a courage. I mean, this problem was here for so many years, and some people thought that it will never be solved. And yet, you know, with the right constellation, right political will and political courage and leadership, it was solved. So as I like to quote Nelson Mandela, who was saying, it always looks impossible until it's done. So therefore, I see myself as a crisis manager, as a problem solver. So if we have a problem, let's find a way how to solve it. And once again, there are no insolvable problems, and we might be now nervous or frustrated, and you in North Macedonia in particular, but let's again remember the facts. You want to join the European Union, the European Union wants you to join, and this is the most important. You don't need to convince, you don't need to explain, and it will happen.
Mr. Lajčák, thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you very much.